Hello. Can you imagine how difficult life is for people with a height of more than 2 meters? All the doorways are too low. In the plane on an economy class seat, it is simply impossible to fit. You have to talk to everyone around you, bending over to it. You can probably get used to it, but it still sounds crazy. But today, we will tell you about the tallest people in the world and about how their daily life is developing. And you write in the comments how tall you are. Let's go. Lindsay K. Hayward. The height of this girl from California is about 204 centimeters, but in adolescence, Lindsay's height was as much as 210 centimeters. She lost 4 centimeters due to a spinal hernia. The American gained fame thanks to wrestling competitions, where for a long time she was a real star, participation in various television shows and acting skills. For example, in the 12th season of the famous medical series Anatomy of Passion, the girl played a patient with a pituitary tumor. In addition, she took even larger movie proposals for which in 2013 she received the Guinness record as the tallest actress in the lead role. In the program My Giant Life of the American television channel TLC, the girl tells and shows what it is like to live with such incredible growth. First of all, of course, you will have to come to terms with increased attention wherever you go, in a bar, a doctor's office, in a store for household items, an airplane, as if people consider it their duty to remind the girl how tall she is.
Oh, this fouled! Oh, sorry.
The girl's retiring career began in 2008, shortly after her 20th birthday. The owner of one of the Florida wrestling schools noticed her and offered Lindsay free education. After a year of training, the American was already invited to fight in one of the world's most famous wrestling promotions, where she performed under the pseudonym Amazon Aces. Fights in which the girl throws adult men once or twice to the other corner of the site delighted the audience, but Lindsay herself admits that she always perceived her performances in the ring as preparation for an acting career, so in 2012, she left the show and devoted herself to filming. Dalip Singh Rana. This Indian wrestler, better known by his pseudonym the Great Kali, has been suffering from acromegaly for many years, a disease in which the pituitary gland is disrupted. One of the possible symptoms is an uncontrolled increase in the size of a person, and even after the biological period of growth ends in his body, so the guy grew up to 2 meters 21 centimeters. However, the giant, whose real name is Dalip Singh Wound, decided to turn this feature to his advantage. From an early age, the guy began to train hard, which later brought him 2 titles of Mr. India and a position in the elite police units of the country, and in 2006, the bodybuilder received an offer to perform in the legendary wrestling promotion, where he even won the world heavyweight title, but of course along the way, the Great Kali had to overcome many difficulties. Firstly, it was very difficult to find a good trainer and suitable equipment for its parameters, and secondly, the athlete had to spend a huge amount of money on maintaining the necessary diet. He himself says that due to active training and the huge size of his body, he had to eat 5 whole chickens and about 40 eggs a day to keep up. A lot of protein in the body. A few years ago, the Great Kali ended his career in wrestling. Now, he successfully runs his own wrestling school and has long been an American citizen. To this day, he is considered one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of this sport, as well as the biggest person in powerlifting. Neil Fingleton. The most loyal fans of the Game of Thrones sagas will remember how in the 4th season of the series, the giant Mac the Mighty breaks the gates of the Black Castle with his hands, so the person who played this role did not appear on stilts in the frame and was not the result of painstaking work on computer graphics. The guy's name was Neil Fingleton, and he is the tallest actor in the world. His debut took place in 2011 when the Briton played the role of a bodyguard in the film X-Men First Class, and 2 years later, Neil starred in the action movie 47 Ronin, where he worked side by side with Keanu Reeves. Before his acting career, the guy was professionally involved in basketball. Oh yes, they forgot to clarify his height was 232 centimeters. The size of the actor was a consequence of some hereditary disease or a syndrome. Everyone in his family had a height of 2 meters, including his sister and mother. According to Neil himself, his peculiarity never seemed to be a problem for him, except that every day the guy he had to deal with ill-mannered remarks and questions from others. Otherwise he was much more worried about the prospect of completely balding, the actor admitted. Unfortunately, Neil died very young. At 36, the official cause of death was heart failure. Yao Defan. The story of the next heroine of our video, the Chinese woman Yao Difan, is a little more tragic. The girl was born in 1972, an absolutely ordinary child. Her weight was 2 kilograms 800 grams, which for a newborn is considered a very modest figure, but after a few years, the girl suddenly began to show unprecedented appetite and grow by leaps and bounds. By the age of 11, her height was almost 190 centimeters, and at 15, she had long passed the 2-meter mark. When Yao's parents turned to doctors, it turned out that a pituitary tumor was developing in the girl's brain. From why she suffered from gigantism, the development of the disease could be partially stopped by an expensive operation. But the family simply did not have that kind of money. After coming of age, it was time to decide how to arrange Yao's future life. Some coaches tried to make an athlete out of the girl, but nothing did not work. She was too weak for her height. In addition, the Chinese woman could not read and writing, so she began to make money traveling with her father and speaking to the public. In 2002, the girl was still operated on, thanks to a fundraising campaign on British television. Her growth stopped, but the calm did not last long. After a few years the tumor grew again, and Yao urgently needed to undergo treatment in Shanghai. After that the girl went home, hoping that the drugs would finally work, but her condition did not improve. All this at that time, Yao felt very depressed and lonely. It was during that period that she saw Chang Jun-sai, one of the tallest people in the world. His height is 242 centimeters. The meeting that took place in the hospital made the girl very happy and gave her hope and strength. Unfortunately, in 2012, the Chinese woman still died due to the lack of proper treatment. At that time she was 40 years old. Igor Vukovinsky. In 2013, on the stage of the famous European Eurovision Song Contest, a Ukrainian singer, Zlata Ogdovich, performed, who took the third place in the competition and was remembered by many fans of the show, also thanks to her unusual performance. Together with the artist, a huge giant entered the stage, so this giant's name is Igor Vukovinsky, and his height is 234 centimeters. The guy was born in the Soviet Union, but at the age of 7 he moved with his parents to the USA. This was the only opportunity to help the boy who was from an early age years suffered from pituitary dysfunction. Since then Vukovinsky lives in the city of Rochester, Minnesota. In order to stop the growth of the guy, doctors performed 16 operations. Nevertheless, the man still suffers greatly from his physical characteristics. For example, his back and legs are chronically sore, and the choice of suitable shoes turns into torture. By the way, there is an interesting story on this score. In 2012, the Reebok company presented Igor with 3 pairs of custom sneakers with the inscription Igor, each of which cost about $25,000. Sun Ming and Zhu Yang. Probably when you have such a huge height, it can be difficult to live with a person half as small as yourself, but these spouses from China, for example, are perfect for each other. Their total height is 423 centimeters, although at the same time Sun is still a couple heads taller than their wife. By the way, in 2013 they even got into the Guinness Book of Records as the tallest couple in the world. It is interesting that both spouses devoted their lives to sports. Sun Ming concurrently is also the world's tallest basketball player. He plays for the team of his native province Heilongjiang, and his wife, in turn, shines in the local women's handball team. Sultan Kosun. You are probably already a little confused in our ranking of giants, and so, at the moment, the Turkish farmer Sultan Kosun is considered the tallest man in the world. His height is 251 centimeters. This is more than the height of the ceilings in an average apartment. By the way, the guy is the owner of another Guinness record. As a person with the largest palms, their length is 28.5 centimeters. This is slightly less than the length of a leaf size of 4. Like many other people much higher than 2 meters, the Sultan has been suffering from a pituitary tumor since childhood. In 2010, the process of uncontrolled growth was stopped. In the USA, a man underwent an operation using the innovative technology of a gamma knife because of his peculiarity. The Sultan never graduated from school, so he decided to devote his life to farming. The guy tries to find advantages in growth, for example, what he can change in a couple of moments, a light bulb and a chandelier, and help mom with other chores around the house. But of course, there are also disadvantages, which is just to search for clothes and shoes. Try to find shoes of size 62 in the store. Robert Wadlow. In front of you, the tallest man who ever lived on Earth, American Robert Udlow, was born in the distant 1918 years, when doctors still did not know how to qualitatively treat a pituitary tumor and carry out such complex operations on the human brain. which is why the man did not stop growing until his very death in 1940. At that time his height was 272 centimeters. Despite his actively progressing illness, the guy managed to graduate from school and go to university, to the Faculty of Law, although he did not succeed in becoming a lawyer. Robert began to actively perform throughout the United States. Within visiting circus, the audience immediately fell in love with him, christening him a good-natured giant. Due to the lack of treatment, Robert's health was rapidly deteriorating. In his 20s, he could no longer move without the help of crutches. Once during a performance, a wooden cane strongly rubbed the artist's leg. Later an infection got into the wound, which quickly developed into sepsis. They tried to save the man's life with blood transfusions and medications, but after a few days he still died. At the farewell ceremony with the adele, which took place in the city of Alton, Illinois, about 40,000 Americans came. Please give this video a like or a dislike. Everyone is in a good mood.